Welcome, everybody, back to the Sales Leaders Playbook podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Ryan Austin. He is the founder and CEO of Cognota, a LearnOps platform. So a voice in the talent development with nearly 20 years experience. Ryan leads software that helps leadership and development, talent, and HR teams align to business goals, optimize resources, and actually prove impact. So Cognota's patent-pending tech has earned the Brandon Hall Honors, and Ryan hosts LearnOps Leadership Series and contributes to Forbes Business Council, ATD, and Training Journal. Previously Senior Vice President, Training Americas at World Trade Group, he mentors with Elevate and was named one of Toronto's top 25 CEOs. So welcome, Ryan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Justine.
Yeah, totally. So here today, we're, as normal, we're going to talk about straight sales. So Ryan, you've been in business for quite a long time. I'm sure you've seen a lot in your career. You've probably faced quite a bit of challenges that you've had to overcome. And we're happy to have you and share your story. So thank you. Now, why don't we start with the first question? And if that's okay with you, take us back to the beginning, where it all started. So what's the story of how you got started? And what was your very first real sale?
Yeah, so I've always been an entrepreneur. I had to because I was bad in school. and I think just even outside of entrepreneurship, like every day there's a sales interaction. To me, sales is all about negotiation, and you're constantly negotiating almost in every conversation you might be having, one way or another. My background really is, rather than being a student who went and had a student job in the summer, or getting a job when my family asked me to work as a kid, I would always come up with the next idea and walk around in my neighborhood and pitch my neighbors to let me either wash their car or clean their windows or cut their grass, and actually form like little businesses out of that. So that was probably my first sale, was talking to some neighbor and trying to sell them something, because I was really pushing back against just getting a traditional job when I was asked to as a kid.
Fair enough. So did you also do, was this kind of door-to-door sales or just your neighbors?
Oh yeah, just door to door, definitely, and actually grew those businesses. I hired more people to do the car detailing one. We anchored a deal with a high-end restaurant at one point, where when people could come valet their cars, and then they would leave and their cars would be clean. And so I actually turned these into like little businesses, but they started with the first yes with a neighbor of some sort.
That's so cool. All right. So then, looking at your business today, what does growth mean to you? Is it about revenue? Is it about market share, team size, or something else? What's growth mean to you?
Yeah, growth is just forward momentum. And sometimes even backwards momentum can be growth if there's learning and the team's able to be better than yesterday, which is one of our core values at Cognota. So as long as we're learning, because all businesses are cyclical. Everybody's focuses on the top 10 fastest growing companies, and they see the charts like this. But most CEOs who have very successful exits were plugging away for anywhere from 5 to 20 years, and are very successful, have family offices, all of that stuff. So it just takes time. And like everything, business is cyclical. You have your ups and your downs. And those cyclical moments are growth moments as well. I personally call them growing pains, and they're the times in the business that challenge you the most, but they're also growth inflection points. You get over those humps and you're off to the next growth curve. Every single time in my career that has happened.
Totally. So for our viewers, they may be facing some type of what seems like just awful, horrible situation. Now, that's not what you said, but it could be in some businesses, especially, what's going on with tariffs and the economy, whatever whatever trope you want to use. But it's normal, right? It's normal, like to experience times of contention. It's expected. So instead of thinking about that as something bad, you think about it as good because it's a growth opportunity. Would you agree?
Yeah, you have to embrace uncertainty, definitely, which is another core value at Cognota, and just a skill that I truly believe as a human being you have to build. As humans, we want to control things, and when you try and control things that are not in your control, you start getting anxiety and stress. And what that really means in business is that you can't think clearly. So, as uncomfortable as it may be, you have to just embrace the uncertainty and focus on the parts of the puzzle that you can control. Because entrepreneurship, whether you're an entrepreneur or working in a business, you face life challenges. Again, everything's cyclical, but time has proven what goes down goes up, what goes up goes down,
Hmm.
and it's just a trend. And you just have to embrace uncertainty through those cyclical trend lines to get to the other side. That's when the magic happens. And it's also when you'll face the biggest challenges in your life and pushes you to the limit. But if you don't give up, then you get to see the magic on the other side.
Absolutely. So when you look at the next 3 to 5 years, each of those years in the next 3 or 5 years, each of those individual years, what is your vision for sales?
Yeah, it's a good question because you always have a vision and you have a plan, right? And then you have a vision, and things change along the way because you only know what you know, and every day you're learning. If I take it back 3 years, the main goal that we focused on was how do we create the world's first LearnOps platform. So think of um, think of transformations that have happened in other business departments, RevOps, for example, given that this is, a sales podcast,
Hmm.
or even DevOps within software development. These teams, these business functions were considered, like marketing, were considered order takers and cost centers. And now, today, we know better that
Yeah.
it just takes time to track return of ad spend or return of marketing spend, and it might take 3 months or more to start to see the fruits of labor behind those investments to turn into real pipeline, et cetera. And it's part of the machine. You need it. So my vision was that the corporate learning and development function spends a lot of time and money, and these teams, these departments just didn't have the right foundational layers to track where the time and money was going and what that means to the business. So that's when we came up with the idea of LearnOps, learning operations, similar to RevOps, revenue operations, where if you tie the workflows together, then you can eliminate the data silos and actually start to show the impact of where the investments are going, and to measure effectiveness. Similar to the marketing story. So fast forward, we've accomplished that. So the next goal is to really elevate ourselves, and where we're moving towards is workforce enablement, where we're powering not only learn ops, but talent ops and HR ops all in a single platform. So these departments that are meant to be working better together because they serve people, the workforce, HR, talent, learning, that they're working better together, not working in silos to solve big company issues. So where we'll be taking the sales force, to answer your question, is really expanding our direct sales team. So we just hired a chief revenue officer recently, supporting her to really grow, land and expand channels.
Hmm.
So really maturing the sales team and focusing on territories and things like that so that we can track data much better, and really develop a well-oiled machine, which would be the next step. And then also broadening our channel partnerships so that we can grow distribution through channel partners.
Right. which is a huge opportunity. Okay, pretty cool. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to that vision and why?
Yeah, 10 out of 10, because it's all about team alignment. And if we have a shaky foundation, the team's going to be shaky. It's going to be hard to execute to get there. So, and like we talked about earlier, it's okay to have setbacks as long as we learn from it. Quarterly, actually, as a leadership team, we get together to talk about where we dropped the ball and why did we suck. And you know, it's like very extensive leadership team building where um, we really break things down to get to the truth, the
Hmm.
root cause of some of the areas that we misforecasted or where we had, things were more difficult than they were. And once we really get to that truth and get past the bias and get past people get defensive and try, the point of the exercise is not about that. It's just about let's get to the truth together. All right.
Totally.
We had a mission. Why didn't we get there? We had a target. Why did we exceed, or what did we do differently that exceeded the target, or where did we fail this quarter on meeting the target? And just getting to the truth behind those things. And when you seek the truth, you get alignment. Everything gets filtered out, and you can start building back up on the truth, on the foundations of the truth, to go execute the next quarter more aligned than you ever have been as a management team.
Absolutely. And especially, and you may or may not agree with this, but I mean, a lot of times people will be promoted to, especially since this is a sales podcast and you just hired your CRO, which is awesome. A lot of times people will be promoted from within the company, like they were a rock star in sales. They were incredible in sales. So the leadership team promotes them to now into some type of sales management role, and far too often they completely bomb because sales management is completely different than individual contributor. Because as a sales manager, you're not just training, you're coaching, you're mentoring, you're supervising. And unfortunately, there's a lot of sales training out there, but there's not a lot of sales management training out there. So yeah, so I would agree with that. Like if your management teams are not aligned, if they don't have a process to not only reinforce ideal sales behavior of the team, but actually hold them accountable to behavior, it starts to fall apart. Do you have any does that resonate with you? How have you overcome
Yeah,
those
the
types of things?
the alignment exercises I talked about for leadership team building, which your sales leaders are often involved, is very different than sales management as well. And as salespeople, you're competitive and you want to win. If you're not competitive, you don't want to win. You shouldn't be in sales. And there's a big difference between hunting and farming, and farmers who call themselves salespeople. It's okay to be account managers and not like the hunter and still win.
Hmm.
I've worked with many successful people who are account managers and know the art of account management and have sold more in upsells than some of the best enterprise salespeople sell on just landing deals. But there's a big difference. And then when you take that from that senior sales level into a management level, it's a different side of your brain. And a lot of salespeople don't actually know how to turn that side on because um, when you're competitive and you're hungry to win that next deal, that's much different than having to be calculated and think about how do you manage people and how do you forecast accurately, because the CEO needs accurate, truthful data to run the business. And a
Hmm.
lot of sales managers will over forecast or wrongfully forecast, and it's just a lot of pressure. I had a mentor once who told me, and the best part of running a business is the people, but it could also be the worst part of running a business sometimes. There's a saying like more people, more problems. And it's just because as humans, we're complicated. No two people are the same. So, if you want to make money and that's your motive, stay in selling. If you're okay to take a pay cut, because that's often what happens when you start managing a team, but that's where you want to go because it's more mission driven. You get to
Mm-hmm.
coach people, mentor them, and help them build up their careers. Then sales management might be for you. The best sales managers can do both. Those are more like unicorns in my opinion, and hard to find and hard to build.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thanks for that. So, in terms of generating leads now, what is working best for you? And how is that different when you first started?
Well, I think quarterly it's different. This is a
Yeah.
very interesting market, and things are changing very quickly. There's I think over inflation and the promise of AI in sales, for example. It's not that it doesn't work, but when everybody does it, because every for-profit business will have a sales team of some sort, then you just exhaust the market. And as the markets change and as things change with technology transformation or whatnot, things are just everly changing right now, quarter over quarter. So I wouldn't plan more than 6 months ahead on how you're sourcing leads,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to be measuring how you're finding pipeline, what's working, and double down quickly, almost take an agile approach to doubling down and pulling back on spend,
Totally.
not enabling the marketing team to have too long of an outlook, because it's just going to be wrong in this business environment. Not only that, but you have to attach yourself to transformation. The world is going through transformation right now. If you're not selling transformation and you're positioned as a tool, it's nice to have. And with markets, people are expecting efficiency and they want to save time and money, and you have to be attaching yourself to transformation. To
Absolutely.
answer your question, what's been working the best for us has been
Mm-hmm.
events and cold calling
Mm.
recently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People want to see each other and shake hands and get back to humanity from what we've seen, to build trust and have deep discussions at an event, for example. And cold calling has been interesting for us. I think it's because people are just tired of getting inundated in emails and LinkedIn messages. But a good uh, a good point on how things change quarter over quarter is cold calling specifically to mobile phone numbers has been working for us. But now iPhone, for example, has this new privacy setting where you can block cold cold calls,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's going to change again.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean about like always being on your toes, being agile on staying ahead.
And that's very interesting. Like a lot of listen up members, because a lot of people think that they're just going to run a marketing plan or just run a lead magnet plan, and they're just going to start getting all this business, or they're going to get all these perfect 10 out of 10 leads. And that may happen sometimes, but at the end of the day, in our experience, and whether you can tell me if you agree with this, the ability for a human being through effective communication, whether it's face to face, over the phone, at an event, the ability to initiate a buyer-focused conversation, it's a practiced skill. A lot of people in the younger generation, they're absolutely amazing with technology, but they think that they're going to grow their business just completely with AI. There are lots of extremely successful businesses that have started and continue to reach success by manpower, by training their teams to be effective at quickly recognizing opportunities, quickly asking questions to find out the probability if this is even going to go anywhere, without spending a boatload of money, time, and resources. In marketing systems, they may work, but oftentimes you could easily get burned. So oftentimes we see people are sharpening their AI skill, but they're completely forgetting the sales process. And from what you're telling me, you run a somewhat of a technology style company. So no doubt you know all the systems out there and what's working and what's not. But you're telling me that you're having success with good old fashioned cold calling and events. Like, that's important. That's huge.
Yeah, we do use technology, for example, with cold calling. So something
Yeah.
that's worked well for us, because cold calling is hard, especially having reps just sit there with a list of, you give them 100 lists,
Yeah.
a
100
list of
people.
100 contacts. Maybe they're going to connect with one or two people. That's not smart use of
No,
time. So
absolutely
what
not.
we started doing is ranking phone numbers by priority, seeing who's most likely to pick up. So if we
Right.
give you a list of 115 people, are ranked that they'll likely pick up. Well, if you grow that list to start with to 2,500, well, you know, the amount of people who are likely to pick up will grow. So the lists that we give or SDRs or sales development reps are lists of people who are only likely to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have a 30% connect rate right now,
Nice.
cold calling, which is quite high.
Awesome. So yeah, it's, people that are afraid, oh, we're going to lose our jobs from technology. Well, technology, based on the discussions that I've had and that we're having, they go together. Technology and people go together. If you're using just one or the other, you may not have as much success, but when you combine them both, have strong skills in both, that's when it starts to work.
It's about enablement. And to do enablement well, you have to have a solid strategy, and everything should be built around that strategy. Your people, your processes, the technologies you invest into. If you're
Mm-hmm.
blindly trying things out and you haven't done that investigative homework up front, and it's not all built around a strategy, not only are your people not aligned, but you're throwing darts at a wall with a blindfold on, and maybe you'll get lucky. Yeah, but more more likely that you'll fail.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So, what would you say that your biggest challenge is in terms of generating leads right now? And how is that different than when you first started?
Yeah, every month is different, and so keeping people, like making sure your team understands that things are going to change, and again, going back to the cyclical nature of just go to market or business in general, or the world in general, right now, right? It's like a hot mess. So
Mm-hmm.
people need to know what they're fighting against, and it makes it even harder in a world where you're mostly remote, because people just sit at home and start second guessing themselves,
Yep.
and a lot of people don't talk about that. So as a sales leader, you need to actually create a safe space and remind your team that you're going to feel lonely. We had a new rep, and the first thing he had a sales job. His president's club, was at the company for like 7 years, and it was time for him to have a change, and he came here super excited, obviously, because we're an awesome company, and it's a new job for him. But then your mind starts playing tricks on you. It's human nature. You're sitting home alone. You're like, where's the pipeline? Because it takes time to build the pipeline for yourself and your new book of business that you start to manage. And like, did I make a mistake? I was making all this money, blah, blah. And no, it's just time. It's just going to take time, and you have to talk about it openly with the team, so that you never feel alone. We all compete, but we're still part of the same team.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start talking openly, then your team can start helping to solve problems for you. So we went through that exercise and encouraged him to talk to his counterparts, and get creative to build pipeline a little faster for himself. And, there were some leads, for example, that other AEs who are eating really well right now, maybe they're dropping the ball, and because they're focused on the low hanging fruit, that they're not managing some of the top of the funnel leads as efficiently as it can. So
Mm-hmm.
if we see that, we'll take deals away and give them to other people. But rather than us doing it, we just told this one AE, like, go ask your counterparts if they have leads that they'd hand to you, because they're just too busy with the leads that they have right now. And
Mm-hmm.
I think he got like $250,000 of pipeline
Nice.
in less than a week to put on his plate.
Cool. Well, that's actually a perfect segue into into how teams are distributed. So, like every business has a messy middle. Can you share a time when, say, a deal, a hire, or a strategy or a plan didn't go as planned, and what you learned from it? Like, can you give me an example?
There's 1,000 examples. uh, you know, um, one example is we're creating a category, so that there's sometimes a bit of a longer sales cycle, especially with selling into learning and development, than if it was a category that existed and you had like a dozen incumbents that you could compete against, and you're just selling like a better way to do things, right? So we don't have that. There's advantages to creating a category at the same time. But the point I'm getting to is something that's interesting is that our mid-market sales cycle and our enterprise sales cycle, there's not that much difference in the time to close. It's like, maybe like 60 days or something like that. But for the amount of money that you can close in an enterprise deal versus a mid-market deal,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's like night and day. And actually, the cost of acquiring the customer in mid-market becomes more expensive because of the contract value of mid-market versus enterprise. But being an eager category creator, we want to do it all, and so we over invested into too many segments at once.
Okay.
And um over the last like year and a half or something like that, we said we'll manage inbounds for mid market, but we're not going to
Right.
invest in an outbound mid market channel.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
If you do too many things at once, then you're not going to be good at anything.
Yeah. You only have enough energy. You can't be spread too thin.
Well, at the right time, you can invest into multiple channels. You have the resources, you have a bigger team, all of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But if you're trying to win, then the fastest way to win is to simplify.
Mm.
Less, let work smarter, not harder. If you're trying to, just in that one example, you're trying to invest in mid market and an enterprise, because they are two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
It's two separate investments, two separate leadership styles, two separate processes, two separate playbooks. Like, sure, there's crossover, but you're now managing two things with the limited time you have every day
Right.
versus just doing one thing really well.
Right. Totally. Okay. So, as you look ahead to the next 12 to 24 months, what would you say is the biggest growth transformation opportunity that you see? And what's the biggest risk on your radar?
Yeah, channel partners is going to be a big growth lever for Cognota over the next
Cool.
12 to 24 months. And we have some really exciting news around that, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see soon. Um, and the biggest risk with that is not keeping up with enablement, and for the team to not realize how important enablement is going to be
Mm-hmm.
and have a precise execution strategy, not just enablement on partner enablement, but market enablement. Like, how do we educate the market more at scale to make it easier for these channel partners? How do we give them the right playbooks and battle cards and everything to teach their team. Because when you're a growing startup and getting into scale mode, um, it's much different having an internal playbook versus if you have a channel partner that has over 100
Hmm.
reps and
Right.
the level of maturity that they play at versus you. And so you really need to up level fast to keep up with the standards that that partner is used to. And so it's going to be a challenge, but exciting. And we're investing into making sure that's successful, including bringing on a chief revenue officer to ensure that we have the right leadership around our table with our partners so that we can win together.
Absolutely. And like, yeah, channel partners is a massive opportunity. Like a lot of times what we see is that, people who use channel partners, they will say, if you help sell our service or product, you'll make a ton of money. And the channel manager, or you'll do a good job, whatever you define success to being. Let's just use money for an example. And then oftentimes the channel partners will be like, yeah, sure, I want to add this to my line. But when they see what's involved in being able to effectively sell it, they fall off. But that's because oftentimes we see, and I don't assume this is you, that's because the salesperson didn't effectively and efficiently qualify them for being a channel partner. All they heard was, "Oh yeah, I can make lots of money," but the channel partner didn't realize that there's going to have to be training. You're going to have to learn new tactics. You're going to have to spend some time learning this. You're going to have to spend maybe a bit of money learning this. But because the salespeople didn't ask these questions, didn't have a discussion with the channel partner, letting them know it's like, yeah, sure, you're going to be successful. There's an easy part and the hard part. The easy part is if you sell these products and services, you're going to add a lot of value to your company. But then there's the hard part. The hard part is that you have to sit down. You got to do training with us. The enablement. You have to do training. You're going to have to invest some time when you're learning this. You're going to have to learn the process, and then when that actually when that they realize they have to do that, they're not pushing any of it. So a lot of times salespeople will waste a lot of time getting channel partners to get buy-in, but they're not actually reselling or promoting their products. So how does your team, I don't know if your team even faces this, but how does your team properly qualify channel partners so that they don't
Well, it's not,
waste time putting together these opportunities and then they don't do anything with it because they didn't realize how much time, energy, resources it actually takes to get up to speed with being able to promote these services?
and again, it comes down to focus and doing things at the right time. If you don't have repeatability in your own sales process and you can't prove that your own salespeople can grow the business, then no partner on the planet is going to be able to do it if you haven't figured out that first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and your salespeople aren't going to figure out how to do that if they don't have the right ideal customer profile um, that they should sell into. One of the biggest mistakes that startups make is just going to market too early, too fast, and trying to sell to whoever will just give them money to buy. And maybe it works, and you start selling it to different groups of profiles. I promise you, 3, 4 years after doing that, you're going to have a huge setback that will take you 1 or 2 years to unwind, where you're going to be
Mm.
forced to fire a customer base because you just focus too much on too many things and you have different customer profiles and they're now asking for different product features and your product team can't be focused and your sales team can't be focused and your marketing team stretched too thin. You're just going to implode. So when that lots of companies who even figure out how to get to the ICP. They've sold into too many profiles too fast, too early, and they have to unwind this like messy yarn ball.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And a lot of entrepreneurs do that, including I've done that as well. And
Yep.
probably even knowing that I've done it too many times. So to answer your question, like partnerships, you need an ideal partner profile. Don't rush and don't get overexcited about the potential of a partnership. That's a trap. Even if you get the best partner profile in the world, who seems it's going to be the most promising, and they might be an exit partner one day, and like your vision's coming to life, it's all noise until it's proven out and it's working. So even if you land and you get to a signed contract with that like best partner idea that, that you dreamed of, etc., like you should not plan or forecast in your business until you see it working
That's
with
right.
signs of repeatability. And so it starts with just really exploring to understand what an ideal partner profile is going to look like. And at Cognota, we finally are getting to a place where we understand that, but it took 3 years of what I call partner marketing to test different channels and to see what will work. Meaning, like just doing webinars with different partner profiles to see where the market starts getting receptive to what the combined story, and looking at things like registration numbers, conversions, just from a webinar that you did with a potential partner. Partner
Mhm.
marketing is cheap. Reselling, co-selling is expensive.
Interesting. So, how do you approach sales effectiveness training and development, both for yourself and for the team?
It's tough because when you start growing, pe- different leaders, different managers have a different opinion. So, like in the early days, we spent so much time building learning paths and following certain methodologies, et cetera. And then new leaders come in and they have their own
Mhm.
methodologies they like to use and things like that. So it just changes. So you need to be flexible, which is why I love the idea of like AI in the world of training and enablement to personalize um, the experience in real time for like where the company culture is today. And if it changes tomorrow, like AI can adapt to that, etc. You
Mhm.
still need to train the AI, um, but not over investing into what you're doing because things will change as you continue to grow.
That's right. Very, very, very true. Okay. So, like, hiring salespeople is one of the hardest. A lot of people say this. You may or may not agree, but hiring salespeople is one of the hardest roles to hire because they look great in their resume. They look even better in an interview. But oftentimes, when the rubber hits the asphalt and they're actually go out in the field and they're required to do proactive sales behavior, that might be very uncomfortable for them. It might induce some type of anxiety within them. So oftentimes they may either, this anxiety could be so strong that it prevents them from doing enough sales behavior. It could even prevent them from doing any sales behavior at all. And there's always an excuse and a reason. And generally it's a self-preservation. It's not because they're trying to be shady or whatever. It's just they have an anxiety. It's scary. And they feel uncomfortable doing the proactive sales behavior or calling on someone or initiating a buyer focused conversation with someone who may have never heard from them. And a bad hire can cost 3 times the salary, like directly out of the owner's or the business's pocket. That can be the salary you paid for them that they didn't succeed, the salary should have paid someone else that could have succeeded, and then the salary that you're going to actually have to pay someone else because you're going to have to let this other person go and reteach, right? So when you hire salespeople, what are some of the greatest challenges that you've experienced so far? And I'm sure many
Yeah, and
people can relate.
it's a learning curve because naturally when you go to hire a sales team, you're like, um, I just need to find the best people, like
Hmm.
proven people, etc. And there's a lot of bias around that. You start I mean, as you mature, you get smarter. You start forming a profile of the type of people you need to hire. Like for us, like I will not hire any salesperson who doesn't already come from within the industry. Because if you have person A and person B and they both cost the same amount of money, the investment is the same. Um, but the ramp time is different because I have to teach somebody our industry.
Mm-hmm.
Why would the company have to pay for that when I don't have to at this current stage? And we just see that the world of learning and development is a little bit esoteric, meaning like it's a little specialized. Like if you haven't been in the world, like you don't think of the problems that these people, our customers, are trying to solve. But when you've lived in our industry, you tend to like love the market and you like selling to this group of people. So you get these like industry lifer salespeople who have done phenomenally, and so we try and find those people. We have 3 enterprise reps right now, so we're not like a massive sales organization. That's going to grow more, and all came from the industry, and
Mm-hmm.
all have been like president club winners and have done very well.
Mm-hmm.
And so something for me personally was to get comfortable with paying up. Every time that I've tried to find like this person seems good and it's affordable, then I lose money or
Mm-hmm.
something goes wrong. Pay up. It's an insurance policy, gives you confidence that you're hiring the right people to grow the
Mm-hmm.
business. You're hiring trusted advisors to help you grow the business, not, you know, not people who will increase probability of failure because you wanted to save 20 grand or something like that.
Right. Totally. So, when thinking about your own leadership, what's the hardest adjustment that you've had to make as the company has grown?
Just to take steps back, more and more steps back as a founder at the right time. It's tricky because, a lot of people from the outside will say, hire smart people and get out of the way. And that's not necessarily true. Like when people come into the company, trust is earned. Um, when you try and fully trust somebody, which your intent is to do that, you want to do that. You've partnered with somebody, they nailed the interview, you did reference checks, but like we just started dating, right? And maybe after 3 months we're going to get married for real because of Ontario law. But imagine going to meeting somebody and then dating for 3 months and getting married for real. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot can happen during that time. So trust is earned. So I have a really we have this really great revenue advisor named Tony, who's in our business. He's ran like $800 million revenue engines. He had 500 reps under him in one company. Really successful sales leader. And he said to me, Ryan, it's like a upside down pizza. Like most people think like, that you hire them and they're here and here's your organization. He's like, my strategy is to flip it. Say, I've hired you because I believe that you can lead this organization and lead this function to the next level. But those pepperoni slices in the upside down pizza, like near the crust,
Mm-hmm.
are your frontline people. And you
Right.
need to prove to me that you can make them successful. And if you can prove that to me, then I can fully remove myself from the business. But until you prove that, my job as a CEO is to make sure that I reduce risk and increase shareholder value. And if there's times that things are not going well, and I feel like I need to get in the weeds to help get it back on track, then that's my job to do that. And I don't want to have the friction with you
Mm-hmm.
about it. So it's okay to be in the weeds sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more important to get fully aligned and set expectations early with leaders, because when you hire really good people, you have to get out of the way, but you also have to do your job as CEO to reduce risk. And it's a fine balance.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I mean, if you could give one piece of advice to an Ontario business owner who's just hit a growth ceiling, what would it be?
Keep going. Or growth ceiling. Yeah, keep going. I mean, you can't be stupid about it. You have to listen to the market. A lot of people fall in love with their own ideas and they try and convince themselves, regardless of reality, that they're doing the right things. So, it, since Kevin O'Leary's Canadian and, he's like from Ontario, I'll use him. But in Shark Tank, he says, like, if your idea is not working, you take it out in the back, shoot in the head, right? Kill it. Because as a human, the most valuable resource in the planet is time, right? Everybody has an equal playing field when it comes to how much time do you have each day, more or less, right? Like, but 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 it's true. So how do you optimize your time and invest in the areas that will increase probability of success? It's tricky because a lot of the time, those same people who could be stupid to the ideas are also um, ambitious and wanting to get to that vision or to that outcome faster.
Mm,
Sometimes it just takes time. And a lot of entrepreneurs kill businesses too early. Businesses don't die on their own. The people kill the business.
mm.
Sometimes it just needs more patience to push through the hard times to get to the other side. But don't sacrifice valuable time. So you have to listen to the market. You have to get those real signals. You can't be stupid about it, but you also have to be patient and push through the cracks.
Awesome. Love it. Well, I really appreciate this discussion. That wraps it up for today. Um, I think this is going to be really helpful. This is why we do these webinars or these podcasts, is because it's raw and unfiltered, and it's the truth, right? So we really appreciate your time, Ryan. We'll hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, happy to do it. Thanks for having me. Really
Excellent.
enjoyed the conversation.